This is not the episode that I was expecting to have today. Let me start off by saying that. And this show is going to be a little bit emotional because it needs to be. Because right now, there is no reason for the Baltimore Ravens to be in the situation that they are in. They have failed themselves. They've shot themselves in the foot repeatedly. And today, they've been shot in both feet by the NFL. And you know, we're going to talk about all these people right now that are trying to resort back to the don't blame the refs. You can't talk about the refs. You should have played better. That whole concept, there's parts of that make sense, but there's parts of that I'm sorry. We're not going to hold up some shield for the NFL and just have a let's not talk about it moment for the NFL and just focus on whatever the Ravens did wrong in yesterday's loss. Because it's too egregious at this point, folks. It's too egregious. And we're talking about it because that's what we're supposed to do here. We're going to talk about everything. There's some things on the Ravens side that need to be fixed, but we are not giving the NFL a pass. I'm Rob Love. This is One Flock. Y'all know what time it is. It's time to fly. Let's go.
Let's go Ravens, let's go Ravens, let's go Ravens, let's go Ravens. We are one flock, we are one flock, we are one flock, we are one flock.
Hello again and welcome back to One Flock. I'm your host, Rob Love, and my goodness, it's so good to have you guys back here. I want to give a big thanks to everybody who has already taken the opportunity to like the channel, subscribe the channel, because of you and your efforts in our very first year, we've seen some amazing growth, already over 1,200 subscribers, and we're racing towards our goal of 2,000 subscribers. If you haven't already subscribed, please take an opportunity now. Join the community. This is what we do. We cry together. We fly together. That's what we do here. Right now, we're doing some crying, and understandably so. We're getting to that today, but we just appreciate everybody being here. I appreciate every single one of you. So thanks for being here. But let's get to it, okay? Let's talk about what's on everyone's mind today. The Baltimore Ravens right now are 6-7. This is not the stretch of the season after starting 1-5 where we looked at it and said, wow, this is when we might have a tough time. We might have a 2-game losing streak. We didn't see the Bengals and the Steelers with 42-year-old cracked, fractured wrist Aaron Rodgers being the concern point. We thought this would be an opportunity if we were able to get back, as we did. We were able to get back to above 500 for the season. We thought with this part of the season, we'd have a chance to extend our advantage in the division, get a little pad, secure our playoff spot, and keep getting healthier and playing better. That's not what has happened. But unfortunately, that is not what the leadoff of the show today can focus on. That's not the main thing that we're going to talk about today. That's the main thing the Baltimore Ravens need to be talking about in the locker room. Because what we're about to talk about right now, the Baltimore Ravens, unfortunately, those guys on the field, those guys who suit up and play their hearts out, they have no control over. And that's why it's so egregious. That's why if I'm the coach, if I'm John Harbaugh, I'm not in the locker room spending any time talking about what we're about to talk about because it can't help those guys in the locker room. However, that does not mean that it does not need to be talked about. It must be talked about. It cannot be ignored because outside that locker room, it means everything. What we're about to talk about, namely the failures of the NFL to call a fair and respectable game, to respect their own rules and guidelines that they have laid out plainly. The failure of them to not only do that, but to also, in their repeated failures in a very one-sided failing multiple times in the same game, has affected the Baltimore Ravens, not just for one game, possibly for their season, possibly for people's jobs, coaches who are on the hot seat, all kinds of things. This is not something you ignore. And I'm sick and tired of the people who want to get up here and say, well, hey, you can't blame the refs. Yes, you can. And you should. You can blame anyone who deserves blame. Let me say that point blank. I'm not excusing anybody who deserves blame. I'm not doing it. There are those who will. Bobby Baltimore, who I respect, he does a great show. We'll talk about his comments later. I'm so glad that on the vault, Sarah called him out on his stance. But I'm sorry, Bobby, on this one, you're wrong. And we'll talk about that. He's not alone. There's lots of people who think it's more important to focus on just what the team did wrong. Let's talk about what the players did wrong. Let's focus on that. That's the biggest thing. Let's give more weight to that. No, not us. That's what the players need to give more weight to. That's what the coaches need to give more weight to, because that's all they have control over. But out here, we got to give more weight to the league having a fair league. We don't want this thing to turn into a joke, because I don't care how good you play. No team's going to play perfect. And if all we're going to do every time a team goes out there and puts an imperfect product on the field is say, well, so what that the refs broke the rules? So what that the refs changed the score of the game and potentially the outcome of the game by not following the rules, by calling an unfair game? So what? You didn't play perfect. Maybe if you had played perfect, it wouldn't have mattered how much they messed up the calling. We're not doing that because that's ridiculous and that's insane. But to make my point, I want to take you guys' minds back, because sometimes if we step outside the realm of football, it gets easier to just relate this stuff to common sense, stuff that we all agree on for the most part, and maybe some of you don't. But I just want to show you something here. Take a look at this here. So here is one of my favorite villains of all time. When I say favorite villain, it's not because I like the character. It's because I feel like he truly embodies what a villain is. And as a kid, loved this movie, still love it to this day. The Lion King, those of you who are fans, you already know this is Scar. But apparently, Bobby Baltimore is prepared to tell you that Scar is not to blame for what's about to happen in this scene. That mostly it's Mufasa. And this is what we're about to watch, very short. This is Mufasa's death scene. Now, just for those who haven't seen the movie, to set the stage, Mufasa, the good lion, whose son Simba, cub, had gone and gotten in front of a herd of wildebeest, had got led there by the villain, Scar, as part of this trap to get Mufasa killed. Simba's in danger. He's about to get trampled by wildebeest, and Mufasa comes running, dives down in the middle of the wildebeest, grabs his son, flings him to safety, and looks like he's about to get trampled. He starts climbing up the wall, doesn't quite make it, slips up, probably picks the wrong wall to go up. There were some better choices, but he picked the first one he could get to, I guess. He wasn't the perfect climber. He slipped, had to make up for where he slipped. Yes, he could have climbed better. He could have picked a better slope to come up with less pitch. But he overcame his failings and made it all the way to the top of the wall. When Scar, does what he does. You watch it, you tell me who bears most of the blame for Mufasa dying. Here it is, check it out.
Scar! Brother, help me!
Long live the king.
Okay, so you saw the scene, right? Did Mufasa mess up? Yes, he did. Did Mufasa make some mistakes? Yes, he did. If he were alive, he probably would say, you know what? I grabbed the wrong ledge right there. You see when I slipped? Had to make up ground from where I slipped. But you know what? Mufasa, despite his mistakes, he did enough to make it to the top of the ledge. He did enough to overcome his mistakes and still win, namely live. Which one of y'all blaming him for dying? You just not going to talk about Scar throwing his claws in Mufasa's paws and flinging him off the edge, negating and undoing everything Mufasa did to pull himself out of the hole he was in. If you're the person, Bobby Baltimore, that wants to sit up here and say it's the heaviest part of the blame goes on Mufasa. He shouldn't have went down there with the wildebeest. He should have took a different route. He shouldn't have climbed that wall. He shouldn't have slipped. He should have grabbed a different climbing perch when he was coming up the side. There was better execution he could have done. That what we gonna talk about? Is Mufasa to blame here? It's obvious, folks. Scar's the villain. And today, in the Baltimore Ravens' defeat, the blame for that loss, the lion's share, no pun intended, but it works, belongs to the NFL. And not even the refs. Because the refs got the calls right. The refs this time got the calls on the field were correct. It was the NFL review committee that's supposed to be there by a strict set of rules in which they do not overturn on-field calls unless there's overwhelming proof, indisputable, that the call on the field was incorrect. They broke their own rule twice. Twice. And then the third call, which we'll make the first one we talk about today. But, you know, you heard me talk about Bobby Baltimore, and in all fairness, again, I love Bobby. He does a great job keeping up with Ravens content. He's a professional, true professional. I really have enjoyed seeing him grow in the space. Him and Sarah both do a great job over at the Vault. But I'm glad Sarah's there because sometimes Bobby gets on a tangent and he needs help being brought back. This is what I'm talking about because, you know, Bobby's quick to come back and say, oh, you're taking me out of context. Not taking him out of context. I'm going to let him give you the full context, and here we go. This was on the Vault today. Check it out.
Here's one question I have for you, Bobby, on how much you are or are not allowed to, like, blame the refs, right? Here's my one last question to you. Do you have any limit to how many bad calls officiating can make? Okay, so I think we can agree that bare minimum, the wrong calls cost the Ravens 11 points. It was an 11-point swing, which would have decided the game the other way. Would you agree that the bad calls cost the Ravens 11 points?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, I agree with you. The Ravens could play better. Lamar Jackson had an interception. The defense let Warren get an easy touchdown. DK Metcalf was getting fades, all that kind of stuff. I agree with that. Do you have a limit on saying, okay, now we can blame the referees? Obviously, it's not 11 points. Is it 20 points? Is it 21 points? Is it 30 points? Like, when are people allowed to say, yeah, the refs really had an outsized impact on this game, and we can give some blame to them?
I don't know the answer to that. I've never thought about it in numerical terms when it comes to points and limitations. I want to be clear. There is a level of blame and a role that they played, as I said last night, in the ultimate outcome. What I wasn't willing to go down the road of, and still I'm not today, which is the fun, you know, when we joked off the top about how we both woke up, you know, not wanting to, refusing to apologize. What's the quote? It's I
apologize for absolutely nothing.
Thank you. So Conor McGregor, you feel that way, and I feel strongly too, because while those 11 points, that's inarguable. I'm with you there. But as you just referenced, I put more weight in what the Ravens weren't able to accomplish, namely the interception in that first quarter that led directly to 7 for Pittsburgh. That's a 7-point swing right there. Mm-hmm. Maybe the Rashad Bateman third down drop with only one man to miss right in front of him. That's a potential 7-point swing right there. Mm-hmm. And so I put more weight on those areas, and we haven't even gotten to lack of pass rush and all the other nuance areas where they got beat last night, that I think, and I genuinely mean this.
Okay, that's enough of that. I just wanted you to see it so you get the full context. Now, he did try to, you know, backstep a little bit and admit that the referees had some blame, but he gives more weight to the mistakes that the Baltimore Ravens made in this game. Let me tell you something, folks. If that's the approach that we're going to take towards NFL games being called correctly, then we're never going to be able to have an accountable league. Because no team, as long as I've been watching, or as long as you've been watching, or as long as you continue to watch, has ever or will ever have a mistake-free game, or one even close to it. There will always be things they can point to and say, well, you fumbled right there, and that could have been a touchdown. How many times did the offense have the ball? Every time they have the ball could have been a touchdown if they execute it perfectly. So there's always, you can't give that type of runway, that type of get out of jail free card to the referees or to the NFL. Because in this case, I want to be clear, the referees, for the most part, called a good game. It was the league that failed. We're not letting them off with this nonsense that what we all saw. It's not all these media members coming out today saying that the Ravens got robbed by the NFL. They're not saying that because they're Ravens fans. And they're certainly not saying it because the Ravens played a perfect game. They're saying it because it's true. The Ravens did get robbed. When you sit up there and blame Scar for Mufasa dying and falling all the way back down, you're not saying Mufasa was a perfect climber, or that he chose the right slope or the best slope or didn't slip. You're not saying any of that. You're saying ultimately Mufasa did enough to not be dead at the bottom of the mountain. He's dead at the bottom of the mountain because after Mufasa made whatever mistakes he made and overcame those mistakes, Scar robbed him. Scar flung him off the ledge. And that's what the NFL did to the Baltimore Ravens. You think I'm just saying this? You think I don't know what I'm talking about? You think my eyes are lying to me? Stephen A. Smith, who I don't always agree with either, happens to be a very vocal Pittsburgh Steelers fan. And you know what? Stephen A. Smith, to his credit, as a journalist, said this today. Check it out.
But it was still an awful call. It was a robbery. And I'm a Steelers fan, and even I have to admit that. The man caught the ball and came 2 feet down. And came 1, 2. That's a touchdown, all right? There's no way that it should have been overturned. It needed to be definitive and conclusive, and I don't think that they can say that in order to overturn a call. I thought it was bogus on their part, and I had their explanation, and this is according to NFL Vice President of Instant Replay, Mark Butterworth. Here's what he said. The receiver controlled the ball in the air, had his right foot down, then his left foot down. The control is the first aspect of the catch. The second aspect is 2 feet or a body part in bounds, which he did have. Then the third step is an act common to the game, and before he could get the third foot down, the ball was ripped out. Therefore, it was an incomplete pass. So you're Mr. Butterworth, according to you in your own explanation. Did he catch the pass? Yes. Was there 1 foot down? Yes. Was there 2 feet down? Yes. But because there wasn't a third foot down before the ball got knocked out of his hands, suddenly that's an incomplete pass. That is the most bogus nonsense of a statement I've ever heard in my life. He might as well have just not even let anybody know that, because now we all know Mr. Butterworth, okay, has acknowledged that it was a catch with 2 feet down and it's still not a touchdown. Now, this is a sport where if you touch the pylon, for crying out loud, okay, but then lose the ball, that's still a touchdown. If you extend and get over the goal line, but then lose the ball, you were over the goal line, so that's a touchdown. But a catch over the goal line with not 1 but 2 feet down is suddenly not a touchdown. I mean, make it make sense. That is just utterly ridiculous. It really is.
And that's from a Steelers fan. Stephen A. Smith, point blank. It's absurd. That is a catch. Anyone who knows football, it's the end zone. What does it take in order to constitute a catch in the end zone? A touchdown. When does the clock stop, the play stops, and the score goes up? It's when somebody crosses that plane with the ball. If you're already in the plane, you don't have to cross it. Boom, catch it. Let me show you. Here's a football. Let me show y'all something. Y'all ready for this? Oh, here we go. Here we go. You see this? If I'm in the end zone and you throw me this ball, that's all I got to do. I don't have to take 1 step, 2 steps, or 3 steps. You know what a football move would be after I caught it? That. You see that? Me stretching out the ball, I can't do that if I don't have possession of it. You want to see me try to extend this ball without having possession of it? Watch. Catch. I can't do it. Does that make the point? There's no way that Isaiah Likely takes the ball and extends it out like this unless he has possession of it. And if he has possession of the football in the end zone, that's a touchdown. As Stephen A. Smith said, you can barely the tip of the ball touch the pylon. You don't have to even get your body in the end zone. And that's the end. That's the play. That's it. How many times have we seen a quarterback sneak in a goal line set where the quarterback leaps over and his arms with the ball cross the line, and then he loses it or somebody knocks it out of his hand? It doesn't matter. He had possession over the line in the end zone. That's a touchdown. It always has been. But now all of a sudden, when the referee calls that play correctly, the NFL, some shadowy figure, maybe it was Mr. Buttercup, Mr. Prince's Bride, Mr. Buttercup. Love that movie. If you haven't seen it, you should watch it. Anyway, Mr. Buttercup decides that that's not a touchdown. And now the Ravens in the fourth quarter, a quarter in which their defense was playing well enough to where they were not allowing the Pittsburgh Steelers to score. The Pittsburgh Steelers had 8 yards of offense in the fourth quarter. That's called, yeah, you started the game messed up, but you're climbing out. You're doing enough to win. And your offense scores, takes the lead. And that gets taken away. I'm sorry, Bobby Baltimore. That is the heaviest part of the blame. I don't want to talk about in reference to the win or the way the game turned out, the way the league's going to record the game. I don't want to talk about, Lamar Jackson's interception or the defense not getting more pressure zone. I don't want to talk about any of that with them. Let Harbaugh and the coordinators talk to the players about that, because that's what matters in them preparing for their next game. That's the only scenario in which I agree with you. It's a waste of time for them to be talking about as they prepare for their next game for things they cannot affect, because they cannot affect whether the league is going to provide a fair playing environment or not. They cannot affect whether the league is going to be called fairly. All they can affect is their play on the field, and that's why what they should be talking about. But what you talking about, Bobby, for us? We're the ones that put pressure. We, the viewers, the people that buy tickets, we're the ones that put pressure on the league to say, give us a product that's fair. Don't give us some sham of a league to where anything goes depending on what the shadowy guy in the, at the other end of the phone decides to do. And we'll talk about more about why that doesn't work, what they did. I think Mike Florio and Chris Sims did a fantastic job of breaking down just how messed up, how egregious what the NFL review committee or team or whoever those guys on the other end of the phone were, how horribly wrong. And again, this word, egregious, I don't think you can put it any different way. What they did to the Ravens Sunday was. Check this out. This is talking about, remember, for those of you who didn't watch the game, there was a play where the Ravens defense had stopped the Pittsburgh Steelers from scoring a touchdown. They stopped them. Great. That's what you're supposed to do. Field goal team comes out. They kick a field goal and make it. But the ref calls some absurd roughing the center call that no one that has looked at this play since has said that's roughing the center. In fact, by the rules, and I'm not even going to talk about it. Listen to this. This is because Mike Florio, who actually talked to, he called and they kind of gave him the runaround, as he'll tell you about. But listen to this. Listen to what happened with that call.
They had the ball 1st and 10 on the Ravens 36. They got it down to the 13. It was 4th and 1. And the Steelers come out to kick a field goal, which would have made it
13-3.
13-3. Right. So the field goal's kicked, the field goal's good, but not so fast.
Right. Now they're going to call, we see a penalty, and on Travis Jones, defensive tackle for the Baltimore Ravens, right? They call unnecessary roughness because he hit a defenseless player, the center. Okay, you're allowed to hit the center. You can't hit him in the neck and head area, right, Mike? Am I right about that?
Yeah, we'll go over all this. Watch this. That's the key angle, okay? Because what they did was it looks like they came up with a strategy for getting past the long snapper that entailed hitting him on each shoulder.
On shoulders, right.
And this is where it's all gotten twisted up. And this is where referee Alex Moore is just flat out wrong. They did a pool report.
Yeah.
And in the pool report, what Alex Moore said was the long snapper is defenseless, and basically you can't hit the defenseless player hard. Right. They ran him over. You can't make any forcible contact to that player. That is false. That statement by Alex Moore is false. You can make forcible contact to a defenseless player. It's not two-hand touch, folks. And see, we've gotten warped into thinking that, defenseless player means you can't even do that.
Right.
You can't hit him hard.
Right.
Well, remember I said earlier about the Travis Kelce play?
Yeah.
He was defenseless. He got hit hard.
Right.
He didn't get hit illegally.
Right.
In the Vikings-Commanders game, and this may be the only time we talk about 5 and 9 still alive. 2%. They can kiss 2% of my ass. But Jaden Daniels throws an interception. By rule, a quarterback after a change of possession is defenseless. He got blown up.
Right.
Didn't get hit illegally.
Right.
So, and let's make sure we understand this. They made the long snapper defenseless because the long snapper is snapping the ball and then trying to protect himself.
Yeah.
So he's defenseless because after snapping the ball, you can't come in helmet to helmet. You can't.
Well, his head is down.
Yeah, his head's down.
Right.
You do the boom down. No. Making a player defenseless does not mean they cannot be hit forcibly. There are 3 categories of prohibited acts. This is all in the rule book. We've got a post at PFT that quotes the full rule book. Number 1, you cannot forcibly contact a player who's in a defenseless posture, i.e. a long snapper, with or in the head or neck area. Okay, go back and watch that. There was no forcible contact at the head and neck area. It was on the shoulders. You can't lower your helmet and make forcible contact with any part of the long snapper's body, and you can't illegally launch into the long snapper. Those are the 3 things that are prohibited. You are allowed to run over the long snapper, and that was the explanation. The snapper, here's Alex Moore. The snapper by rule is a defenseless player, so the contact would be unnecessary. Basically, he ran him over. Alex Moore, you are allowed to run over a defenseless player. It is astounding that one of the 17 people entrusted with the white hat, the crew chief, doesn't understand what a defenseless player is and isn't, and what is and isn't allowed to be done. Unless it was just, you know what, we screwed this up, and instead of admitting we screwed it up, we're going to come up with some cockamamie bullshit reason, so they'll just leave us alone.
Right.
Either way, it's bad.
Yeah.
Either way, it's bad.
I am so thankful that Mike Florio, who we know has been on both sides of the Baltimore Ravens fan base. He made some comments about the Ravens a couple of years back when we were playing the 49ers that he had to eat. So he's not a Ravens guy. He's not a guy who's biased to say things in the Ravens' favor. He has caught our ire in the past. But here, just in his interest in the fairness of the game, he was obviously upset. Upset with how, as he put it, one of the 17 people with the white cap that's supposed to be not just a ref, so supposed to be one of the experienced refs, really knows how to call what these rules mean and how to call them as laid out in the rule book. How this guy didn't have a clue. And because he didn't have a clue, a 3-point field goal turned into a 7-point touchdown after he penalized the Ravens for touching the center. You see, the rule book plainly states what unnecessary roughness in that situation against a defenseless player would have been. And the Ravens didn't do any of those three things. That would have been a good time for maybe the review committee to correct something that their referee did. I don't even know if that's a reviewable call. Should have been, because it was obviously wrong. And it turned a 3-point field goal into 7 points on a touchdown by Kenneth Gainwell immediately after that. Don't tell me that there's no blame or that the blame doesn't fall on the NFL, who cost the Ravens at least 11 points. Took 11 points off the board for the Baltimore Ravens, or however you want to say it. They took 7 points off the board for the Ravens, added an additional 4 points for the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's an 11-point swing. Turned a field goal into a touchdown for the Steelers and turned a touchdown for the Ravens into 0. I'm sorry. That's not okay. That's not a situation that you look at the game and you say, "Oh, well, you just got to play better. You shouldn't have been in that situation. If you played more perfectly, if you played a better game, then maybe they could rob you of 11 points and you'd be up by 20 and would still win. Instead of a 20-point victory, you would have only won by 9 because they took away 11. That's ridiculous. If you want to be real, if we want a fair game, we have to call a spade a spade. And the Ravens got robbed yesterday. And thankfully, there's enough media members out there, it seems, that are just as upset. Well, maybe not as upset as we are, but upset. Because the integrity of the game is what suffers. Not just us. There are people out there who love the sport. But man, what is this? When the game can't be the game because you got to worry about the NFL coming in and just changing the rules between the end zones and nobody can question them on it. Don't talk about it. The coaches can't talk about it. The players can't talk about it. And now you got people in the media that are saying, hey, let's not talk about it. I mean, the main part we need to talk about is the Ravens. What they didn't do perfectly. Stop. I'm talking about it. And you should too. Mike Florio and Chris Sims also broke down the other instance in this game, which was just as egregious, when Aaron Rodgers tried to throw a pass. Our D-line finally got pressure. Linebacker, somebody, I forget who it was that smacked the ball. Somebody came through, smacked the ball. Aaron Rodgers catches or tries to catch his own deflected pass. Buchanan catches it. Aaron Rodgers is trying to get it from him. He's got his hand on Buchanan's hand, another hand on the ball. It gets called a interception because it was. Buchanan ends up with the ball, change of possession. The review committee comes back and overturns the interception. And their explanation was that because Aaron Rodgers, his knee touched the ground, even though he had two hands, control of the ball, even though one of his hands was on top of Buchanan's hand, his knee touched the ground. And so that control, that moment of control before Buchanan ripped it out, that millisecond of control, means he had possession and dead ball with his knee down. Now remember, with our touchdown, Isaiah Likely, who had two hands and nobody else's hand on the ball and was running with the ball like that. that wasn't possession as a receiver. But Aaron Rodgers, split sec. Let's just watch it. Just Mike Florio breaks it down nice. Let's listen to this.
He knocks it up, and he then has it in his hands for a split second. He's going to the ground. The ball is ripped out and intercepted. The ruling on the field, Christopher, is interception. So, if we are going to apply the replay review standard the way it was intended, the only way that ruling of interception gets overturned is if there is clear and obvious evidence the ruling on the field was incorrect. So, tick, 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 we wait for the ruling. The ruling on the field was Aaron Rodgers had possession of the ball with his knee down. The play was over, down by contact, no interception. The Steelers have the ball back.
So I just want to make sure. So when we see the next time in the middle of the field, somebody catch the ball, their knee goes down and their hand is trapped on the helmet with somebody else. And then if they fall over or lose the ball, then it should be a catch, right? Because you did not complete the catch process.
Exactly.
First off, that's the first thing. Let's show it all again, guys. First off, if we have one that we can show in real time, do we have a one that we can show in real time? Because this when you show it in 77.90,000 times slower, it starts to be, ooh, did he catch it? If you watch the play happen in real time, you'd go, oh, boom, ball tapped in the air. Oh, it's trapped on his head. Oh, they got the ball. That's how it happened. Now we watch it in slow motion, and again, if we could just show what we had there, we'll do that first, what we just showed a minute ago. Let's watch this. I mean, we're going to call I have the ball trapped on my head with somebody else also with his hands. That's a catch, a completed catch. Did he get 3 steps and can make a football move?
Exactly.
Right?
Remember this, because we're going to have that discussion on the next play.
What are you talking about? So this there right here, and you're going to say that's possession? I'm just shocked, especially when, like you said, the call on the field was interception, because the common sense of it all was, wait, in real time, that wasn't possession. That ball was live. He trapped it on his head for a split second. Why somebody else, Malik Harrison, had his hands on there. And on the way down to the ground, which he's still completing the process of the catch, the guy took it out of his hands. That makes no sense to me at all. That was one of the worst calls of the year right there.
Let's be fair to what the league had to say. Mark Butterworth, the VP of Instant Replay, in the same pool report that Alex Moore defended the unnecessary roughness on the long snapper hit, Butterworth said the offensive player, i.e. Rodgers, had control of the ball, and as he was going to the ground, there was a hand in there, but he never lost control of the ball, and then his knees hit the ground in control. So therefore, by rule, he is down by contact with control of the ball. Now,
never completed the catch. I hear
whatever happened to, you have to have control of the ball and 2 feet down, and you have to either make an act common to the game or have long enough time to do it. And one of the acts common to the game is 3 steps, but there are others. Remember that for the next play. And if you're going to the ground, remember that part as he was. We can play it again. As you're going to the ground, you have to maintain possession through the act of going to the ground.
Right.
What happened?
Right.
He didn't maintain possession
Exactly right.
through the act of going to the ground. Tell me that it's clear and obvious that the ruling of an interception, not a catch, not down by contact, an interception, you can't tell me that was clearly and obviously wrong. That was a gigantic miss. That was an embarrassment to the league that they missed that one.
I would agree. I mean, that's certainly another huge moment of the football game, because now Baltimore doesn't get the ball right there, right? Short field. You don't know what happens. Instead,
it's kind of momentum boost.
Right.
That on the next play, you could have a touchdown.
Yeah. And instead there, I think they ended up punting, right, on that series. Yeah, but regardless, it was all the way down the field. They got away with it. Right.
I don't know what to say, folks. I mean, anybody out there today who's trying to say that the Baltimore Ravens did not get robbed of a victory by the NFL failing to call a remotely fair game is delusional. It's delusional. We're not just talking about random calls that they got wrong. We're talking about calls that affected the outcome of the game, that either put points on the board that shouldn't have been there or took points off the board that should have been there. Do you realize where the Ravens were when Aaron Rodgers got that ball intercepted? what should have been an interception? They were in striking range. Points were going to come out of that possession. Field goal at the least. Maybe a touchdown, as Mike and Chris pointed out. We'll never know because the refs interceded. Scar. We're not talking about harmless, meaningless calls that the league just totally screwed up. Egregious. Again, you'll hear that word 30 times in today's episode because that's what it is. That's what it is. It's inexcusable and it's wrong. And it's not something you need to be giving the league a pass on today by saying, well, we don't need to talk about that. That's not really the real reason. I don't want to put most of the blame on that. Why not? Because whatever you're about to talk about after that, whatever you're talking about that the Ravens did, that they could have done better, should have done better, guess what? You'd still be talking all about that. We'd be talking about it today. The only difference would be the Ravens would have a win. You see, when the referees or the NFL step in and do enough damage to a game to where they affect the outcome in the manner that they did yesterday, we're talking about that. We're calling that out. And no, Bobby, no. The biggest part of the blame in that situation does not go to the team who made a lot of mistakes, didn't play their best game, but did enough to come back and take the lead in the fourth quarter and hold the opposing offense to 8 yards of offense. They did everything they needed to do to climb up out of that hole they were in and live. Win. One more play. We talked about it a little bit, but I want you to get, again, some more insight about what the actual rules are. I already told you, in the end zone, you catch the ball, boom, right here. You don't have to make any moves. You don't have to take any steps. I can stand right here. Guy reaches for it and do that. Guess what? I've proven he's reaching for it. He can knock it out on the third reach. It doesn't matter. I've demonstrated I have the ball in the end zone. That's a touchdown. End of story. No steps needed. Not one, not two, not three. Isaiah Likely caught the ball, did this, and took 2 extra steps that he didn't have to take for it to be a touchdown. Then the guy finally knocks it out and, it's not a touchdown. He didn't get 3 steps. What? But enough. You've heard my words, my reaction. We're going back to Mike and Chris. Check this out.
Now, then this is the most important one because this would have been the touchdown that would have put the Ravens ahead late in the game. Isaiah Likely, a 13-yard catch. He has it in the end zone. He's got 1 foot. He's got 2 feet. He's holding the ball out away from the defender. And before the third foot hits, the defender successfully knocks out the ball. Okay, great defensive play. There he is, holding the ball away, ball in his hands, 1, 2, and before the third foot hits, the ball comes out. Now, after years of not knowing what a catch is and struggling with Des caught it, and anytime one of these questions comes up and I'm sitting next to Jason Garrett, he turns green. And he said, I know this rule better than anyone. Now, I am convinced there was a time where the NFL sold the idea that if you had the ball in the end zone and 2 feet down, the play was over and you don't have to do any of the other stuff. I'll submit that if that was ever an accepted interpretation, they still require, and let's make sure we understand what this is. The act of catching the pass, you get control of the ball, 2 feet, or, Brian Callahan, any other body part down, elbow, shin, knee, forearm, whatever. And you have to then, if you're going to the ground, you have to maintain possession through the act of going to the ground. If you get your 2 feet down, you've got to perform an act common to the game, i.e. a football move. And there are several different ways you can perform a football move, okay? The easiest one to spot is the third step.
Yeah.
They added that when they finally fixed the rule.
Which he's a millimeter away from hitting the third step.
And see, the beauty of the third step is it removes all doubt from the question of whether or not the guy caught the ball. You take that third step forget about everything else. He got a third step. It doesn't matter whether he made a football move. It doesn't matter whether he lunged with the ball. It doesn't matter whether he tucked it and turned upfield. Those are the other football moves. And it's not just a third step. You can still complete the act of catching the ball by making the act common to the game, by extending the ball forward, tucking the ball away and turning upfield, avoiding or warding off an opponent. Okay? Those are the ways.
And that's what it was at the end.
And what's he doing? Let's apply common sense.
Again, this is
Let's
where,
apply common sense.
Thank you.
Okay.
Right.
What is Isaiah likely doing? Well, there's no need to tuck the ball and turn upfield because you're in the end zone. He is holding the ball, extending the ball away from the defender to keep him from knocking it out. And just because he failed to keep him from knocking it out doesn't mean
for 3 steps.
Didn't have it long enough.
For 3 steps.
The question is, have you done that? Have you extended the ball and warded off an opponent? And let's apply common sense. Is that a catch or is that not a catch? Now, let's apply the standard. Is it clearly and obviously incorrect?
I agree. It's called a touchdown on the field.
There it is. I mean, he made a football move. All this talk, every little stab at an attempt that Mr. Buttercup tried to make, he's talking about, well, he didn't get a third step. He doesn't have to. Know your own rules. You want to see what a football move looks like when you're in the end zone and you secure the ball? That's a football move. You want to see another one? That's a football move. You secure the ball and do this or do this. Football move, mate. Shut up, go away. You can't fumble the ball after possessing it in the end zone. Once you possess it in the end zone, play's over. Whatever happens after that doesn't matter. The play is over. Points are on the board. It is the, spell it with me, E-N-D, end zone. The play ended as soon as Isaiah Likely had possession of the ball, which he obviously did in the end zone. You know, I feel like I'm dumbing this down for a league that's supposed to know something about the sport that they own. Why do we have to dumb it down for them? You know what? I think Mike Florio was onto something earlier where he said they're just trying to bull jive us, give us some answer. They know they screwed up. Maybe they got caught. Maybe this was a scandal. I don't know. Neither do you, and that's the problem. If we can't put faith in the game because they can't call common sense calls correctly in situations where they affect the game, the outcome of the game, that's a big deal. It's not something that I'm prepared or that you should be prepared to sweep up under the rug as they expect you to do, Bobby. And talk about let's just focus on what the Ravens could have done better. They should have been up by 30 so that the league could steal away 13 points and they still win. We wouldn't be worried about those 13 points the league stole. You understand what I'm saying? And I'm just throwing 13 out there as a random number. I don't know. I know it was at least 11 they stole. At least 11 points. And however many points the Ravens in all likelihood would have won with that very short field after the interception the league took away. But that's, we hit it off with that today because it needed to be talked about, and I don't want you guys to stop talking about it. The league needs to be called out on it because if you're just silent, if you guys just sweep this under the rug, if you want to, go by the rule, there's so many others. Bobby, I've called him out today just because of his comments lately, but so many others. He's not the first. He won't be the last. They want to say, yeah, you don't worry about the refs still in the game. We got to give the league their blame when the league has blame. And unfortunately, the scar of yesterday's game, the reason Mufasa fell off the side of the cliff was Scar. It was the referees. The Baltimore Ravens did not lose because of their mistakes. You know how we know that? Because in spite of their mistakes, we watched them pull themselves through a defensive showing in the second half and an offensive showing in the second half that was improved. We watched them pull themselves out of a losing situation into a winning situation, and then we watched the NFL fling them right back into a loss. That's why we blame the NFL. As we should. The Ravens got robbed. Okay. Now let's move it inside. Let's talk about some of the stuff that needs to be being talked about in the Ravens locker room. Some of the things that Bobby feels are more important than the league robbing the Baltimore Ravens of a win. And there were enough of those things. There were a lot of them. Lamar Jackson's interception that he threw was very uncharacteristic. It was a terrible throw. Bad pick. But you know what? It's not a quarterback in the league I've ever seen not do it. Now, it is disturbing when we put it that Lamar's been on a 4-game run now, I want to say, where his performances have just not been to his standard, not even close. 2 of the worst games I recall ever seeing him play have been in the last 4 games. And when you see that happen to a guy who for years has been just awesome anytime he hits the field, there's something to that, folks. Now, we've all talked about it. We've all said, obviously Lamar's not as healthy as he's been presenting himself to be. Something wrong there. But even more disturbing, the offensive line play that we've been talking about for well over a year now, going back into last season with particularly Falele and the black hole that he just creates in the offensive line, giving free shots at Lamar Jackson. In this game, it was reported during the game, Lamar Jackson got upset to the point to where he was actually having words with Falele on the sideline after that interception that he threw. And understandably, I mean, to Lamar's credit, he's held his composure a lot better than I would have if I was taking those hits after my O-line was leaving me susceptible to them at such a terrible, terrible rate. But it got to a boiling point, obviously, in this game. And not just for Lamar. I don't know if you guys watch Unc and Ocho on the nightcap, but some of the comments, I mean, Unc was so upset. He was taking his glasses off. He was sweating, patting his head. Listen, Unc spared Falele no smoke. He gave it to him unfiltered. Here's some of the highlights from that. Check this out.
Lamar Jackson isn't playing well. He's just not.
No.
And a lot of that has to do with your left guard. He's terrible. And Chad, I know sometimes my bluntness is not the best, but he's not good. That left guard is not good. I mean, he ain't. You shouldn't be allowed to be that big and that sorry. That needs to be a prerequisite. If you this big, you got to be good. This man, big, he can't block the sun out of his eyes, let alone a defensive lineman or an extra blitzer coming.
Let me. What number is he? Don't say 77.
77. Fillet.
Yeah. Okay.
Fillet.
Yeah.
He fillet. Fish fillet.
Yeah. I bet. Listen. On film, he's always at the scene of a crime, and I mean no disrespect.
Yeah, 77. Yeah, that's him.
On the games that I've seen, it's always him, always the same one.
Chad, y'all need to help me out. If he's this bad, he's so bad that you can't bench him. How bad? But ain't no. I need somebody to help me. Ain't no way the backup can be that bad. Because if the backup that bad, he ain't even a high school player. I mean, how you pass that and you don't block nobody?
Yeah.
I mean, to be that big, I mean, the sun rise up and the sun shining, he can't even block the sun out of his eyes, Ocho. Sun blind him, he just walked right into the wall because he can't do this.
Yeah, he got his shot. Man, he a big boy too now.
Big and terrible.
He a big boy.
He's as big as he is sorry.
Mm-hmm.
But ain't nobody ever told him this year, good game. They lied if they did. You go into hell if you told that man good game, you lied to his face, and he know it. Everybody know when they play like some stir fry. What's his name? Daniel. Come on, Dad. Hey, come on. We gonna get him. We gonna be all right. And hey, come on, Dad. We gonna get him. We gonna be all right. If I'm Lamar, no, we not. This man gonna get me killed. What they should do, Lamar said, you know what? I'm gonna go play guard. And I want you to play quarterback. And I'm going to do to you what you've been doing to me. I ain't going to block a soul, and I want him to tear your ass up.
I know Lamar frustrated, man.
Me, I'm frustrated, and I ain't got hit in 20 years. And, Ocho, it was the 25th anniversary of the Super Bowl team. They got Letterman jackets out there. Boy, you know if I'd have been down and ran on the field, I'd have ran out there with you terrible. Me. I'm a coach. I said, look here, son. I don't know what's going to happen. I really don't. But I did make a recommendation that we cut you. Just so we clear. That's my recommendation.
Hey, hold on. A recommendation?
Yeah, that's what I recommended. I don't know what's going to happen because it's out of my hands. But I did recommend this morning that we cut you.
It ain't that many good linemen.
He ain't one of them. Man. So you're right. You're right. You're right. If he's the solution, what's the problem? If he the answer, what's the question?
It ain't that many linemen, huh? They you can't just pop them off trees like that.
It's
You can't
hard
just
for me to believe that there are linemen worse than what he is. It's hard for me to believe that, Ocho. I refuse to believe that.
Well, you can't hide him.
No.
You can't hide him. You can't hide him.
Shannon Sharpe was taking no prisoners. Falele got canceled on Nightcap. And, it's crazy because we've been saying this. We've been seeing it because we're Ravens fans. We've been picking apart all the players that you normally don't see in the national media. Nobody's really talking about individuals on the O-line. And that's why it's funny that I say funny, but it's also sad that it's now gotten to the point that the biggest story about any player on the Ravens team is an offensive lineman, number 77, who is catching smoke. I mean, he's getting a roast like he's Tom Brady, like he's a high profile. That's how much notice Falele has pulled through being that terrible. I don't know how, as a staff, you continue to just walk around and act like it makes sense to have him on the field. And compounding that, I don't know if you guys heard, but it was reported today that the Ravens have suspended who a lot of people were hoping would be the guy that would come in to replace Falele. He's been suspended. And Harbaugh has oddly not had much to say as to why we haven't seen any rotation. Falele just continues to roll out there. But in the spirit of laughing so you don't have to cry, I wrote a bit of a jingle and sent it over to a good friend of mine, Kid Darkness, who's amazing. He's an amazing songwriter and producer. He took my very rough draft and turned it into a fa-la-la-la-lay-lay special. And so, since you're hearing music all the time everywhere you go now, I thought I would put a little festive song on for you now. Fa-la-la-la-lay-lay-lay. Kid Darkness, bless us. Here we go. You guys are going to like this.
Tis the season for replacing. Fa la 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 lay 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 lay. Misassignments, edges racing. Rush lanes, defenders flying. Lamar sighing. Grades are ugly, no denying. Shannon Sharpe went off on nightcap. You can't be that big and still play like that. He ain't filet, he's filet-o-fish. Crowd goes ish. Ravens fans all screaming for the switch. Please lay. Pocket breaking, pressure swarming. Lay. Lamar dodging hits like super storming. Lay. Every stunt and twist they're bringing. Bells ain't ringing. Same result, the pressure stinging. Lay.
Shout out again to Kid Darkness for pulling that together for us. Like I said, if you're tired of crying, sometimes you just gotta laugh, and that definitely got a laugh from me. Hope you guys enjoyed that as well. We try to keep it fun around here, even when we sad, right? And why are we sad? Because our team. We're watching our team. We entered this season with Super Bowl aspirations, and this team just is not. It's not looking good. We haven't put together what I would call a complete game all year long. We've had games where the offenses look good. If you want to go back to the first couple of games of the season, the offense was looking great. The defense was horrible. And we've had games where the defense was locking down opponents, but the offense has struggled. We haven't seen, to my recollection, one game this year where we've had complimentary football played at a high level. And that is so concerning. Now, given I'm going to repeat what you've heard me say in the last few episodes, Lamar's not 100%. I don't know what percent he is. I don't even think he's close. And it's hard to tell, though, because even if he is 75%, with the level of O-line play or the level of O-line not being played, maybe is a better way to put that, it's really hard to tell, how good, because everything is rushed. And what has happened is, if you put yourself in Lamar Jackson's mind, if he knows that he has no protection, if he has no faith in his protection, he cannot focus on anything downfield without feeling rushed, because his sixth sense is telling him, even when he doesn't see it, I'm about to get hit. He can't relax and just execute. He can't just sit there and do what we've seen even 42-year-old Aaron Rodgers was able to do behind his line. I mean, it was crazy. We couldn't get... Aaron Rodgers, 42 years old, was sitting in the pocket just da-da-da, da-da-da. He might have been singing the fa-la-la-la-la-la-lay song. Fa-la-la-la-la, kind of like that, lay-lay-lay. He was sitting back there chilling, right? And, of course, the one time we did get through to him and caused him to make a mistake, the NFL gave him the ball back, said he was a great receiver. Don't get me started again. We talked about that already. But it's just, we haven't seen the type of play from this Ravens team to where we have any real reason to believe that even if we make the playoffs, if we manage to win these next 4 games, and these next 4 games are not easy, I'm going to throw the schedule up here real quick. And this is why this is important. Right now, because we lost to the Steelers in this game, or were robbed of this win, look at the implications. So we've dropped to just a 20, I think they said 25, 27% chance. It may be lower than that, depending on what odds you're looking at. But the Steelers have over 70% chance now by the numbers of winning, and you see why. Look at their schedule. Look at our schedule. Our schedule, we've got Cincinnati up next. We see how well they've been playing. Joe Burrow and them boys are putting up numbers, and it seems like they're playing for pride. I mean, their playoff hopes are dashed, but they haven't let up on the offensive end. They had the Buffalo Bills railing. If you saw that game, that was a game this past week. The Cincinnati defense seems to be playing inspired football. Joe Burrow and Chase and Higgins, they're out there doing what they do. This is a dangerous team to be playing if they're playing that way. And it's a rivalry game. and we have to play at Cincinnati. So, tough game coming up, division game. The Steelers don't have a tough schedule over the next 4 games. If we beat the Bengals, then we have the number 1 team in the AFC, the New England Patriots, who have been playing great ball. That's going to be a tough game. And if we beat them, we then have to come back and beat the Steelers again, and we have to play the Green Bay Packers. 4 teams that you can't say any of those are easy. 2 of them have already beat us. It's not looking good for the Ravens right now. If I put on my optimism hat, we have the talent, we have the players on this team to where if we can manage to do something that we haven't done all year, and that's play a complete game, complementary football, defense playing like they should, offense clicking like they should, Rashad Bateman not dropping passes. We saw the drop, right? Lamar playing like Lamar. The offensive line allowing Lamar to play like Lamar. And let's not even get started with the injuries. If we can stay healthy, Keaton Mitchell, we had him back for a couple of games. He's injured again, got injured in the Steelers game. The prognosis seems like it may be brighter than what we were hoping, but there's so many things that just haven't seemed to come together that at this stage, it's hard to feel like that even if we make the playoffs, we're not a one and done. Anything's possible. I know that. But right now in that locker room, the Ravens really need to be soul searching and figuring out what is it that we can do in order to have a game where we really pull it together and execute on both ends of the field. Because if this team cannot do that, then the offseason is a lost season for this year. And I don't think there's anybody who really would dispute that right now. So we've got things to look at. And these things are important. Will Harbaugh be here next year? We'll talk about that in another episode. I think the heat is turning up, obviously, and the NFL did him no favors by what they did to his team this past weekend. But Harbaugh's built his own resume. That one game won't make it or break it. But it certainly didn't help. It certainly didn't help. So we're gonna talk about some things. Look forward to getting our pregame expectations together for this next matchup against the Bengals, being that we just played them less than 2 weeks ago. Obviously, we kind of know what to expect there, but we'll dig into it. We'll get into some of the details. But I just wanted to get in here and talk about this because a lot of fans right now, we're already upset because we're disappointed in our execution, and we're so just frustrated, as we should be. But when you're frustrated and your team still gets robbed, you finally do enough to get a win and you get robbed. That's a big deal, and that's why we talked about it today. I hope you guys understand that, but I want to know your comments. You agree with Bobby? You agree that the biggest part of that loss lays at the feet of the Baltimore Ravens? Or do you agree with me that the biggest part of the loss lays at the feet of the NFL and the highway robbery that they did in plain sight for everybody to see unapologetically? I'd like to hear it. Put it in the comments. Let me know what you think. And more than anything else, I just want to say thank you to you guys for being here again. We all love the game. We all love the sport. We love the Ravens. And I'm just happy to have you here. Remember, if there's one thing this world will never be too full of, that thing is love. So find somebody who needs a little bit more love in their life. Give it to them for me. Love on them a little bit. Thank you for everyone who has subscribed. Please continue to tell your friends. If you haven't subscribed already, now's a great time to hit that like button, hit that notification bell, so every time we have a new episode, you find out. I'm your host, Rob Love. Love you guys. Really appreciate you. Thank you so much. We wouldn't be here without you, but we're going to keep on keeping on. And we're going to make sure we call it like it is. But one flock. Once again, this is Rob Love signing off saying, thanks for flying with the brother. See you back next time.
We take the field as one flock. Come on, Ravens, here we go as one flock. We keep grinding till we soar to the top. Come on, Ravens, here we go as one flock. We keep grinding till we soar to the top. Let's go, Ravens, let's go, Ravens.